Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered exactly who is listening to all those invisible signals passing right through the air? Well, if so, you're in the right place. And you know, this isn't just some recent internet age phenomenon either. Ever since the height of the Cold War, there's been this massive invisible net steadily evolving, quietly processing signals right above our heads for literally decades. Okay, let's dive into this, because today we are stripping back the veil on the silent architecture of global information warfare. I promise you, this isn't science fiction. It is a real-world spy thriller, operating constantly, just mapping the digital exhaust of our daily lives.
You've probably seen pictures of them, right? Or maybe you've even driven past a heavily guarded facility out in the absolute middle of nowhere. I'm talking about those eerie, monolithic, giant white domes dotting the landscape. They look almost like golf balls designed for giants, just sitting there in total static silence. But to be technically accurate, these structures are actually known as radiomes. And that white dome you see, it's really just a geodesic weatherproof shell. It's a literal shield designed to protect what's hiding inside. These massive, hypersensitive parabolic antennas that are constantly shifting, tracking, and capturing signals from the sky. Which, of course, raises one incredibly important question. What exactly are these radiomes listening to?
Well, the short answer is everything. Seriously, through a process known as SIGINT, or signals intelligence, they are listening to absolutely everything. These antennas are pulling in data ranging from the highly classified telemetry of missile launches across the globe, all the way down to the mundane, everyday private conversations you're having on your cell phone. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth does my personal text message end up in a military-grade vacuum? It all boils down to something called microwave spillover. See, when a terrestrial communication, like your cell call, bounces from a local tower, a tiny fraction of that microwave signal physically spills over its target. It shoots right out into space, directly into the path of waiting orbital satellites. The sheer volume of this operation is, quite frankly, staggering. We are talking about vacuuming up petabytes of raw data every single day. So yes, this massive, secretive global architecture is directly connected to the very text you send and the personal calls you make.
Section 1. Global Centers of Surveillance.
So, to really understand how they pull off this massive undertaking, we've got to map out the geography of these secrets. We're not talking about just one single listening post in an isolated country. No, this is a sprawling, interconnected worldwide web of surveillance centers strategically placed to catch virtually every frequency bouncing around our planet. And these aren't just abstract, unnamed black sites. They have actual physical addresses and massive geographical footprint. Take RAF Menwith Hill over in the United Kingdom, for example. It's a sprawling complex specifically positioned to pull in enormous amounts of transatlantic intercepts. Or consider the highly secretive Pine Gap installation, located deep in the remote Australian outback. Pine Gap's strategic placement out in the absolute middle of nowhere, that's no accident. Its isolation allows it to monitor the entire Asian continent and the Pacific without any localized terrestrial interference whatsoever. These are the physical anchors of this silent architecture, and they are actively processing unimaginable amounts of intercepted data every single second.
Section 2. How Echelon intercepts everything.
Okay, let's move to the actual science and see how this builds. This global interception system, historically known as Echelon, operates exactly where cutting-edge hardware meets the invisible data streams of our modern world, and it functions in 3 incredibly efficient steps. Step 1 starts way up in space, where a constellation of highly sensitive satellites captures those communications and spillover signals bouncing through the atmosphere. Then, Step 2. Those satellites beam that massive payload of data back down to Earth, specifically targeting what are known as radio quiet zones. This part is absolutely crucial because of the signal-to-noise ratio. To accurately hear a digital whisper transmitted from orbit, you need a receiving location with virtually zero background electronic noise to interfere with the transmission. Finally, Step 3. Within those radarms, mass communications are systematically extracted and analyzed. And keep in mind, this isn't a room full of humans listening to tapes. We're talking about banks of supercomputers running advanced extraction algorithms, parsing millions of targeted keywords, voice prints, and metadata packets per second. It is a seamless, frictionless pipeline from the vacuum of space right down to those isolated terrestrial zones.
Section 3. The social engineering threat.
Now, let's abruptly slow down the pace for just a second here. We have just talked about billions of dollars of space hardware, petabytes of daily data, and the sprawling global network of listening posts. Yet here's the chilling irony of our modern era. The absolute greatest threat in this information war doesn't require a supercomputer at all. In fact, it requires almost zero technology. So the crucial point is this concept right here, social engineering. By definition, this is the use of psychological manipulation to gain confidential information without ever writing a line of code or hacking a computer. I mean, think about it. Why spend billions trying to crack a highly encrypted digital vault from space when you can just bypass it entirely? The source material highlights massive, catastrophic security breaches caused by things that are almost hilariously simple. Picture this. A hacker drops a handful of infected USB drives in a corporate parking lot, sticks a label on them that says Q1 executive bonuses, and just waits for a curious employee to plug one in. Or, a threat actor gains access to a highly secure server room simply because they're carrying a ladder, wearing a high-vis vest, and looking visibly annoyed. People literally just hold the door open for them. It is a low-tech weapon that completely bypasses that entire global satellite network we just mapped out.
The stark contrast here is honestly just amazing. On one side, you've got the highly complex business of hacking computers, Echelon, orbital satellites, and massive radio quiet zones. But on the exact opposite side, you have the business of hacking humans, pure psychological manipulation. It's kind of the ultimate paradox of modern security, right? We will spend literally billions of dollars building these unbreachable fortresses of hardware, encrypting servers to withstand quantum computing attacks, only to be entirely defeated by a yellow post-it note with the word password 123 stuck to a receptionist monitor. I mean, no way, right? But it happens all the time. Human hacking leverages really powerful psychological levers: fear, a false sense of urgency, respect for authority, or honestly just our natural human desire to be helpful to someone in need. A well-timed, confident phone call from someone just pretending to be an IT manager can bypass the most advanced high-tech warfare apparatus ever built. We fortify the hardware to an incredible degree, but we leave the human mind completely unguarded.
Faction 4, the new informational war.
And this brilliantly illustrates the total reframe of how we actually need to understand conflict today. You see, the old paradigm of the 20th century was territorial warfare, fighting over physical boundaries, maps, and plots of land. But modern warfare has fundamentally evolved into informational warfare. The battle lines? They're no longer drawn in the mud and the sand. They're drawn in completely invisible data streams. And this matters on a massive geopolitical level, because the very nature of what makes a strategic asset has changed. A submarine fiber optic cable crossing the ocean floor, that is the modern equivalent of a highly contested mountain pass. The data routing centers and, more importantly, the minds of the humans operating them have completely replaced physical rivers and stone fortresses as the ultimate targets. So whether we're talking about a giant white radome silently intercepting a satellite feed in the outback, or a calculated lie whispered over a phone line to trick a distracted employee, they are both devastating weapons deployed on the exact same battlefield.
Which really leaves us with one final, provocative question as we wrap up this explainer. This invisible net of interception and manipulation, it surrounds us every single day. So what is your place in this silent, informational battlefield? When the war is entirely invisible and the weapons range from giant white domes listening to the sky, all the way to a polite stranger confidently asking for your password, how secure are your own private conversations in the modern world? Take a moment to really think about that the next time you hit send. Keep learning, stay secure, and I'll see you in the next explainer.